Prop master, what do you get? You bought this vase at a stall for 5 yuan a pair. Which prince's mansion would display such a stubborn vase? Do you think this is the home of the rich man or the mayor? With sweat in his head, the director pointed at a pair of vases in the corner of the studio with disgust. This color, this pattern, to say that it is a vase, is an insult to the vase. Hearing the director's temper tantrum, the prop master who was hiding in the cool air hurriedly stepped forward and explained to the director in a low voice, "Director Zhang, our group has insufficient funds. I can't do anything about it. The group will perform for the group these days. His salary is too low. Some of the group performers who are often in our group have already gone to the next door crew to play the devil." After speaking, he sneaked a glance at the vase he had brought back. The red rooster painted on it was indeed slightly grounded. Getting angry, it's no wonder that the director who has always been good-tempered is so angry. Director Zhang's face improved a bit when he heard this. He looked around and saw that other people were doing their own things honestly. He should not hear what he was about to say, so he lowered his voice and said, "The person introduced by Yao filmmaker yesterday came here. No, let him audition if he arrives." Their crew was also unlucky. First, the pre-booked male protagonist had a car accident and had to be replaced. As a result, the male protagonist was arrested for drug abuse within a month after being turned on for less than a month, making him unlucky. Not finding someone to replace the male third is not only a waste of time, but also investors' money. The prop master immediately understood that although their group did not have any popular artists, the male and female protagonists were a bit famous, and it was normal for someone to bring money into the group to get famous. However, thinking that this time it was the son of a coal mine owner who had to act in a romantic but not indecent role in the play. He looked like Pan An's male number 3. He felt a bit of toothache, and he didn't know that the fans of the original novel of the show wouldn't you call them dogs? The Longtang Film and Television Base where the crew is located is one of Huaguo's famous film and television bases. There are countless costume dramas produced here every year. It not only feeds a bunch of group performances, but also feeds nearby hotels and hotels of all sizes. Snack stalls are also popular destinations for those who dream of celebrities. Gong Ziqiao drove the new car his father bought a few days ago slowly through the antique streets, and finally found the site of the closed Moon Princess crew. When he got off the car, he saw a scene of enthusiasm inside. He looked in the crowd. After a glance, the right smile appeared at the corner of his mouth and walked towards a young girl in a maid costume. "Hello, is this the film crew of Closed Moon Princess?" Lin Shu never thought that someone would pronounce the name of their crew so ridiculously tall. She looked up at the young man who was interrogating in front of her, and nodded blankly, "Yes. Thank you." Until the other party took out the mobile phone and walked away, she unconsciously held her face. The sun was so big just now, did the makeup on her face spend? She felt a sense of shame at the thought of letting such a man see her with makeup. Rubbing her hot cheeks, she looked at the young man's back curiously. Could this person come to visit the class? Shui Cheng is like this, there is no trace of a knife on his face. Is this the only way to have such a good face when he saved the universe in his previous life? In the second studio, producer Yao sits on a small bench and occupies the most windy position of the electric fan in the crew. He is about to talk to the lighting engineer. He suddenly hears the strange silence in the studio, although he soon recovered. Normally, he still noticed the weirdness in the seemingly normal atmosphere, and he couldn't help but look towards the door, and saw a young man about 20 years old walking towards him. It was because he had been in the entertainment industry for many years. Can't help but sigh in secret. "Xiao Qiao is here," producer Yao stood up smilingly, and said to the staff around him, "This is my friend's son. Young people are interested in the entertainment industry. Brothers are all seniors in the entertainment industry. I usually teach him more and let his young people gain more knowledge." He and Gong Zixiang are also friends at the dinner table. Now that other people's children want to play in the circle, he has to give some face. Gong Xi Chiao approached Yao producer. He just heard what the other person said, so he politely smiled at Yao producer. Uncle Yao, I'm sorry, there is a traffic jam on the road, it was late. We made an appointment at 10:30, and now it's just past 1 o'clock at 10. It's not too late, not too late. It's good for young people to be on time. Producer Yao smiled cheerfully and turned to other people. I will take him to see the director. You guys are busy first. Everyone laughed and said that when the producer of Yao took the people out of the studio, the two assistant directors who were in charge of shooting the small supporting role exchanged their eyes. It seemed that this was the male number 3 who brought the money into the group. The appearance is quite in line with the original novel. As long as the acting is not worse than the robot, their crew will be less scolded by fans of the original novel. Gong Ziqiao walked by Yao producer, looking at the crew members hurrying around, as if he hadn't noticed that if they looked at them like nothing, the smile on his face became more natural. Along the way, producer Yao briefly introduced him to the main members of the crew, and then the topic turned to him. I heard that you are a student of the history department of Imperial Capital University. Why did you suddenly want to enter this business? Emperor Capital University is the most famous school in Huiguo. It is not a place where you can go if you have money. So he will pay more attention to Gong Ziqiao, who graduated from Imperial Capital University. Gong Ziqiao thought, my family thinks that archaeology work is too hard, and I am also very interested in acting, so I want to try it. In his previous life, he was born in troubled times. Although he studied for a few years, he did not have many amazing talents in his belly. Finally he was able to join the most prestigious lord at the time. Later, although he was not the most valued counselor, he was also quite popular with the lord. Trust. It depends on him knowing when to laugh, when to be angry, and when to be silent. Later, the lord established a hegemony, and many people were alienated and jealous by the lord, but he was the only one who was rich and honored for half his life and won the lord's trust even to death. Sometimes talent is important, but things other than talent are also important. Otherwise, how does his father Sichio laugh from the beginning to the end? Acting has almost become his instinct, even carved into his bones, so in this life, what is more suitable for him than the profession of actor? Producer Yao. When the prop artist went out of the studio, he saw producer Yao leading a young man toward this side. He immediately said, is this the young man you introduced? Yes, this is the new male number 3 in our crew. He is still a newcomer. You need to take care of him and raise a few more points. Producer Yao couldn't hear the ambiguous attitude of the prop master, but since he gave it to Lao Xiang a promise, then it will definitely be done. The prop master noticed Yao's tough attitude, and smiled vaguely. He didn't say much. Anyway, a prop master can't be a master. He politely looked at Gong Xi Chiao, almost startled by this look. This completely does not meet his personal requirements for the mine owner's son, okay? It is not a good habit to be preconceived, and the ancients did not deceive me. After seeing the appearance of Gong Ziqiao, the prop master didn't worry at all that the director would conflict with the producer because of the casting. Anyway, the face of this young man was enough to make the audience applaud. The other party was introduced by producer Yao. Whether the family has money or the appearance is good, the prop master is happy to flatter in front of producer Yao. The compliment in his eyes almost overflows. What a handsome boy, Yao produces yours. The vision is really good. We can't find a few young people with such an outstanding appearance. Producer Yao is very satisfied with the props master's knowledge and interest. He also consciously has a face in front of Gong Xi Chiao. He smiled and said to Gong Xi Chiao, Xiao Chiao, this is Teacher Chen, who is in charge of the props of our crew. There are a lot of people in the circle. Well-known film and television works have his credit, so I still don't say hello to Teacher Chen. Hello, Teacher Chen. Gong Xi Chiao said hello to the props master Chen with a smile, as if he could not hear the words exchanged between the two at all, and looked innocent and innocent. The props master Chen laughed and praised him again, and then said, "At this moment, Director Zhang has time. Do you want to bring this with you, Producer Yao? Just call me Xiao Qiao. Then I'm not welcome." Prop Chen laughed twice, "Then Xiao Qiao will go to see Director Zhang with me, and communicate with the director more. You are also easy to get involved in the filming." That being said, Chen Diao knew very well in his mind that this young man was not born in a college class and is a rich second generation. There is a Yao producer to support him, and his scenes may not be good for shooting. After the three of them entered the studio, some people around who watched the show quietly whispered to each other, expressing their curiosity about the background of the new actor who brought money into the group. In all likelihood, who is the godson? An actor who played a small supporting role said sourly. Others did not answer when they heard the words. It's no surprise that there are godsons, goddesses, younger brothers, and so on. They don't have any contradictions with each other. They can't talk nonsense to offend people. Who knows if they don't? If you are careful, you pit yourself? Seeing that no one was talking to him, the actor sniffed his nose and stopped talking. He also knew in his heart that there is really no way to compare between this person, at least that person's face is pretty, it's God's meal. Director, Producer Yao is here with the new actor. Prop Chen walked into the studio and saw Director Zhang sitting in front of the monitor watching a scene that was filmed before. He quickly stepped forward and reminded him. The focus is on the accompany word. Director Zhang turned his head and looked at Gong Ziqiao's face, with a warm smile on his face. It turns out that our male third has arrived. Producer Yao has a good vision. This young man is just alive. Su Ruhang who is undressed, he will play this role and he will definitely not be able to defeat it. Where is he? He is a layman and a newcomer, and I hope that you will cultivate him a lot. This child's parents are very fond of him. It is just right for you to temper him. Haha. Director Zhang silently wiped his face. Your old man said everything to this point, he still dare not take good care of it. As for the audition, he didn't mention it anymore. Anyway, it's the result of the trial or not. It's better to sell it to the surnamed Yao. Forget it, he looks pretty good. As for acting, if the acting skills are not good, change the script. If you move your hands and feet when editing later, you will not be able to smash a play. Anyway, it is a male number 3, and it is not a male lead or a male partner. After the two scenes were filmed, Gong Ziqiao drove home after removing his makeup, leaving a group of crew members staring at his car in a trance. The price of this car is over 1 million, right? A group actor pulled the lunchbox with a bit of unwillingness in his eyes. If you look good, someone will hold it. The group performers didn't know the details of Gong Xiao, they only heard that someone behind him was supported, and the funder behind him also invested a lot of money in order to get him to receive the male number 3. Why doesn't this make some stars carry stars? Are people jealous of people who have dreamed of being in circles for years but have no hope of coming to an end? That's not the case in this circle, there is nothing clean, a younger group performer next to him said jealously, we can't compare with these people with good-looking faces. Several group actors nearby heard the conversation between the two and moved a few steps aside with their own lunchbox, using actions to show that they would never participate in this topic. They are all acting in a group of people who want to eat a bowl of rice. Who would offend these distinguished actors? Even if you listen to this kind of words, those who dare to say it are the brains that have gotten into the water and shook a few vigorously. After successfully making a high profile in the crew, Xiao came home and saw his dad cooking in the kitchen shirtless. He took a sip of the cup from the nanny luo and walked to the kitchen door lazily. Longneck looked at it. Dad, what are you doing? In order to celebrate your becoming a big star, your father, I will cook for you by myself. I will make sure that it is delicious, and you want to eat it. Gong Zixing shook his arm. and the thick little finger necklace on his neck followed suit. It shook, gleaming with dazzling golden light under the light. Gong Xi Chiao, who has no interest in cooking at all, retracted his neck. How can it be so easy to become a big star? My son is so good, why can't he do it? What a big star, you have to go abroad, rush out of Asia, and into the world. Gong Zixing's eyes widened, and his already serious face suddenly exuded. Bandit, the sons of my collaborators, which one has your ambition? Every time a friend visits their home, Gong Zixing will always take them to visit his prize showroom, which is filled with trophies from Gong Ziqiao's childhood, as well as good children certificates from kindergarten. As big as various competitions and art competition trophies, and then looked at the friends with all kinds of envy, jealousy, and hatred. Gong Ziqiao has long been accustomed to his father's mentality of "I'm the best son in the world." He turned his head and looked around, turning the subject away and said, "Where's my mother? What else can she do at this time? She must have gone to the square to dance." Gong Zixing took out the boiled fish in the pot carefully, wiped the oil from the rim of the bowl with a cotton cloth, and asked the nanny to take the bowl out. Immediately turn around to wash the pot skillfully, and fry a plate of mushroom and vegetable heart. Go wash your hands, your mother will be back soon. Today my son went to the crew to act, and my wife will definitely come back early. Gong Zixing pulled his waistcoat, walked out of the kitchen and wiped his sweat with a towel, and asked, "Is anyone in the crew embarrassing you?" The tone was as if as long as Gong Ziqiao said yes, he would put on that person's sack every minute. Rhythm. The people in the crew are very nice, and Uncle Yao is a producer, who dares to show me his face. As soon as Gong Ziqiao finished this sentence, he heard his mother's voice ringing behind him. The sun is back. Xiao Lanfen's plump cheeks smiled, and smiled more brilliantly after seeing Gong Ziqiao, then walked to Gong Zixing, took out 2 pure cotton t-shirts from his bag and stuffed him. In his hand, the air conditioner is on at home, don't always wear a vest, you can catch a cold if you have a cold back. After teaching her husband, Xiao Lanfen turned around and sat on the sofa and began to say who and so in front of her just now boasted how capable her son was. In fact, he was far worse than his son. By the way, he took out a high-end mobile phone produced by Huaguo from his bag. The reason is that she has heard that many young people like this phone recently, so her son can't lack it. Gong Ziqiao, who has to change his phone several times a year, reluctantly accepts this phone that is very tyrant in the eyes of others, and silently sighed in his heart. Under the high-intensity doting behavior of his parents, he can take such a 3-point view. It is not easy. After dinner, Gong Ziqiao sat at the dinner table, listening to the conversation between his parents while eating, smiling and nodding from time to time and echoing a few sentences. When he was reincarnated in this life, it happened to be when his mother gave birth to him. After he was born, the family's conditions were not good at that time, but his parents never saved half a point from him. They gave him almost everything they could give him, treating him as a treasure in their hands. In his previous life, he had 3 brothers, but because his mother died early and his father was drunk, he went to help a college at the age of 8. He began to seek life in troubled times when he was 15 or 6 years old, and he felt real family affection at all. In this life, he knew that even if he sneezed, his parents would be concerned about the existence of several questions. His previous life succeeded to the last laugh, but for him, this life was his greatest fortune. This kind of warm and comfortable life was something he couldn't even think of in his previous life. You don't need to calculate from time to time, you don't need to act, you don't have to force yourself to laugh when you are sad, and you don't have to worry about it when you want to laugh. This kind of life is as easy as a dream. I heard that the life of the crew is very hard. The actors are taken care of. I have asked someone to arrange an assistant for you. I will ask him to accompany you to the crew tomorrow. Gong Zixing touched the cigarette case on the table, but watched after seeing his wife and children sitting next to him, he put his hands back. If you are wronged, you must go home and tell us, don't worry me and your mother. Gong Ziqiao put down the bowl in his hand and nodded, Dad, don't worry, I won't let people bully your son. That's true, Gong Zixiang thought deeply. He remembered that some people wanted to bully his son before, but he was cheated by his son and begged his grandpa to sue his grandmother. He couldn't help but take a few more glances while sitting in front of him. The harmless young man had been relieved for the most part. In the early morning of the next morning, Gong Ziqiao saw the assistant his father arranged for him in the living room. This assistant named He Peng was about 26 and 77 years old. Although he looked ordinary, his eyes were clear, and he could see that he was reliable. People. The two got in the car together. He Peng drove in front, Gong Xiao flipped through the script in the back seat. He Peng didn't talk much from start to finish, which made Gong Xiao more satisfied. When we arrived at the crew, everyone found that there was a personal assistant behind Gong Ziqiao. No one was surprised. Really rich or worthy entertainers would use the crew's public assistants, like Gong Ziqiao who drove $1 million luxury car. The new actor in the background only brings an assistant, which is already low-key. After changing into costumes and putting on makeup, Gong Ziqiao leisurely sits next to him and plays mobile games, waiting for his part to start shooting. Some people in the world will only feel holding up even if they are sitting in a precarious position, while some people just sit lazily on a chair and play with an electric fan and play with a mobile phone, which will also make people feel handsome. Gong Ziqiao happens to belong to the latter. And before you know it, his photos have become the new favorites on the phone screens of some female staff. Little Joe prepares for the next scene with House Hung. Director Zhang held up the loudspeaker and asked the staff to adjust the positions and set up the props, and then began the scene where the general hero and the enemy prince and the sons of three confronted each other. Zhou Househung forgot his words in the first filming, NG once. The second time Gong Xiao had a problem with his position, and he was NG again. I heard that there is a kind of magical flower called non-mist in Liguo. If someone accidentally eats it, it will cause people to hallucinate. You can't distinguish between true and false. Have you ever heard of this kind of flower? Sitting at the table, behind them are the diners coming and going. It should be an extremely noisy atmosphere, and then the dark tide is raging between them, which makes people almost ignore the noisy crowd behind them. I'm just a rich idler. Ever heard of such a surprising thing? A single flower can make people unable to distinguish between true and false. Wouldn't it make the world mess up? Young Master Jin Yi smiled casually, revealing in the beautiful peach blossom eyes. There was a hint of sarcasm. The general is better not to hear it. The hearsay is true. Perhaps some people know it very well. The general's eyes swept across this overly good-looking rich man. In my opinion, Lu Mao, it's better to be hearsay. Ha! Su Ruhang chuckled, his white and slender fingers gently squeezed the white porcelain wine glass, and his index finger lightly swiped across the edge of the glass before he smiled. Who said it wasn't? Director Zhang watched Zhou Hesheng's performance with Gong Ziqiao behind the monitor, and took a deep breath. Zhou Househung is an actor with acting skills. Among the second and third line actors, he is considered a strong group. Gong Ziqiao and him, when he appeared together, he didn't even steal the limelight. On the contrary, it was easy for people to pay more attention to him. This can be done not only with a face. Before the identity of Su Ruheng in the original book was revealed, he was just like what Gong Ziqiao played. He was amazing in appearance, full of talent, yet unruly, and was the object of countless women indulging in. In the novel, a lot of rhetoric is used to describe how beautiful Su Ruheng is, how to make women crazy, how to make men jealous. Even after his identity is finally revealed, not many readers feel bad about this character. Therefore, with this kind of role setting, it is very difficult for a real person to perform the feeling described in the novel. Even director Zhang himself has never thought that an actor would act such a vivid and true role of an imaginary exaggeration. His original plan to reduce the number of male 3 roles has disappeared without a trace, but now what he needs to worry about is how to reasonably increase the number of male 3 roles. Intuition tells him that if there are more male 3 roles in this play, the ratings will be certain. It will be much higher. 2 days later, when most fans on Weibo were still condemning public figures for taking drugs and fans defending their idols regardless of right or wrong, the crew of Closed Moon Princess, which had few fans, posted stills of the new male third. Many netizens who play Weibo are not fans of an artist. For them, they follow whoever looks good. In the morning, they can call the artist their husband, and in the afternoon they call the artist his wife. They do not distinguish between them. Men and women, young and old, even regardless of race, as long as they look good, they will lick the screen for the subject, even if the subject may be just a cat that looks like a beautiful boy. All this type of netizens have a beautiful name, that is Yanfen. All this day, when some Yan fans accidentally saw the Weibo sent by Closed Moon Princess, they were suddenly filled with only a string of the same words and a large row of exclamation marks. That is, the official release of Princess of the Moon is 3 makeup photos. All 3 photos are of the same person in the same costume. The only difference is the posture and demeanor of the person in the photo. In the first photo, the man in Chinese clothes sits straddling the luxurious gold-patterned chair, his chin is slightly raised, his face is not a smile, the corners of his eyes and brows are indifferent, his eyes seem to be the person in front of the screen, but high above the top it's hard to dislike it. In the second photo, the man in Chinese clothes stands under the pear tree with his hands behind his back, with a gentle and intoxicating smile at the corners of his mouth, but his eyes hide unspeakable sadness. In the third picture, he knelt on one knee, holding a long sword in his hand, and the blue silk hanging down his shoulders, lining the white clothes with white, but there was a faint despair. Blogger, you have the ability to put photos, you have the ability to put a few more photos, tell me the name of this handsome guy, I promise not to kill you. My screen is so dirty, I want to lick it, no one will stop me. This is the Su Ruheng in my heart, the living Su Ruheng. There is nothing good about this photo, so I only watched it dozens of times. This actor is called Gong Ziqiao. I haven't heard of the name before. Is it a newcomer? Looks more like Su Ruheng than Liang Dong. There is even a public surname, which is really rare. Hehe, stand up for this beautiful man whose surname is Gongzi, but his surname is Gongzi, not Gong. After the makeup photo was published, within half a day, it was reposted more than 10,000, and it was even on the Weibo hot topic list. However, there are red and black, and soon some people will stand up and express doubts about the makeup photos. This is a picture of a masterpiece, the effect is not bad, I hope that when the TV series is broadcast, you will not slap your face too much. Hehe, just such a newcomer who didn't know where he came from, someone would actually say that he is better than Liang Dong. I am not someone's fan, but even if Liang Dong's drug behavior is wrong, I shouldn't let a Mao and a Gu step on him. What is this Gong Xi Chiao? You haven't seen his acting skills, so you are ashamed to say that he played Su Ruheng. The topic involved Liang Dong, and immediately caused another scolding war. In the end, Liang Dong fans slumped and lost, leaving a group of Yan Dang to continue to lick the screen of the newcomers' fixed makeup photos under Weibo. Gong Ziqiao, who was filming in the crew, didn't know that Weibo had already been upset, but for him, who had experienced the 2 armies in his previous life, even if he knew it, he wouldn't take it seriously. No matter how loud the quarrel is in this life, it is only a verbal fight. In the previous life, not only a verbal fight, but also a fight. Although director Zhang had deliberately asked the screenwriter to add a play to the male third, no matter how much he added, Gong Xi Chiao only played a male third, so after running around with the crew for more than a month, his role was finally coming to an end. I don't know whether it was a special arrangement by the director or just a coincidence. His last two scenes were about Su Ruheng's return to the country as the crown prince, and his memories of the heroine before he died of old age and sickness. As the big villain in the play, after Su Ruheng got the crown prince, it was the climax of the whole play. Although the final ending is that the male 3 villain was shining by the heroine's halo, put down the butcher knife, signed a treaty of peaceful coexistence with the heroine country, and then hid the heroine White Rose deeply in my heart, and married the white rich beauty of his own country. Ascended to the throne, embarked on the pinnacle of life. For this kind of plot trend, Gong Ziqiao is simply unable to complain. Anyway, the author and the screenwriter are happy. Putting on the crown prince's robe with a golden dragon pattern on the black bottom and a crown weighing 2 catties on his head, Gong Ziqiao stood under the stone steps. After hearing the power on prompt, he stepped up the stone steps step by step. In front of him is the weak and old emperor, and behind him is the courtier who bows down. Every step he takes, he can feel that he is closer to his power. Although I am rich and honorable, if Yanner smiles at me, these riches and honors are smoke clouds. What's the point of being proficient in the 6 arts of a gentleman? I would rather be a wild crane, flying among the mountains and forests, far away from the world. Su Gongzi is good acting, but under this windy surface, there is such a dirty heart of power hidden. Su Ruheng, is there one thing you said to me is true? Recalling the right and wrong that had happened in Qiangguo, his footsteps paused slightly, but he stepped on without hesitation. He was born in the royal family, and he yearned for the golden dragon throne. What is the importance of other truths? Director Zhang looked at the camera, Xi Qiao, and secretly took a breath. The young man in front of him was too spiritual, and he almost thought that the camera was really a prince who was exhausted, not an actor. This kind of infectious power is really terrible, so terrible that he feels that such a strong infectious power is a waste of being used in such a fast food TV series. The tiger in August autumn is terrible. Gong Xi Qiao is wearing a heavy black costume. When a scene is filmed, it is sweating like rain. He replaced the prince costume on his body and, with the help of the costumer, put on the royal robe. The electric fan in the dressing room was whistling, and he tilted his head up and asked Ms. Yao to put on old age makeup for him. Director Zhang walked in from the outside and was afraid of his shoulders. I was planning to go out tonight to have a meal to celebrate your finale. Unfortunately, the weather forecast says it will rain. We can only rush to film tomorrow's night scenes tonight. Next time the whole crew is finalized, we will get together again. Director Zhang, you are welcome. Although my play is finished, I will meet you often in the future. It will be the same when I eat. I have to be conscientious to delay the filming in order to eat a meal. Gong Ziqiao laughed. He laughed. He is a newcomer who plays the male number 3. Even if he has a little background, he cannot be so big that the main creative staff of the crew can put down the shooting progress and hold a finale banquet for him. Director Zhang can follow the crew in front of several staff. His few words of politeness have already given him a lot of face. You're right, we will spend a lot of time together in the future. Director Zhang smiled satisfied. The next scene is an inner scene, which is not very good to shoot. Don't be stressed. I'm ready for you. Gong Ziqiao thanked him with a smile. He had heard that most of the crew would give red envelopes to actors who played death plots, so he didn't refuse. After sitting for 2 or 3 hours, the old age makeup was finally completed. He secretly relieved, took a sip of the mineral water from He Peng's hand, and then said, "It's almost finished. It's a winter scene on a hot day. It's just a free sauna. The filming hasn't started yet, or let's take a seat in the car. The car is air-conditioned and cooler than here." He Peng feels hot when he sees Gong Ziqiao like this. Where is filming? It's the extreme sports of the human body. Okay, Gong Ziqiao agreed without hesitation. It's not his style to suffer if you are blessed. The car of Gong Ziqiao and the leading actors was parked outside the studio, just a few steps away. It is convenient for everyone to rest in the car. Blowing the air conditioning and drinking the frozen juice with a straw, Gong Ziqiao felt that he was finally alive. He exhaled a long breath, leaning on the back of the chair as if his whole body was boneless, and lazily said, "Acting is also an individual effort. It's really hard." If he didn't pose in a more comfortable posture when he said this, he might be more convinced. He Peng, who had been accustomed to the tuffacidness of Gong Xiqiao, listened quietly during this time of more than a month. He handed him the mobile phone kept by Gong Xiqiao, carefully listening to the movement on the set, and waiting for director Zhang to notify him of filming. He took the phone from He Peng and accidentally clicked on the Weibo shortcut icon on the phone screen. Gong Ziqiao found that a blogger on the homepage was showing off a vase, saying that it was used by the royal family 1,000 years ago, and one byte is worth nearly 1,000 won. I don't know if I am showing off my wealth or proud of my own collection, the tone is not particularly good. He clicked on the person's Weibo homepage and found that the words on the person's Weibo were very arrogant, and even scolded a wealthy businessman as vulgar and vulgar like a coal mine boss. Seeing this, Gong Ziqiao frowned and quickly registered an account called Little Chiao from the coal mine. Xiao Chiao from the coal mine, blogger, although your 5-color golden lotus pattern vase is well made, you can't get rid of the fact that it is actually just an imitation. Although the porcelain of our country more than 1,000 years ago is very elegant and delicate, and the handwork has reached its peak, due to the conditions at the time, this kind of porcelain often has joints, and your vases do not see any joints at all. The most important thing is that the 5-color golden lotus pattern vase does not conform to the aesthetics of that era, and the font written on the signature does not conform to the atmospheric style of the special official kill at that time. So if you did not misplace the picture, this kind of high imitation porcelain is worth at most 1,000 yuan, and you accidentally typed an extra 4D. After typing this paragraph, he calmly quit Weibo and threw the phone aside. What happened to the coal mine boss? Did you eat his rice or drank his water? Soon after, the blogger who showed off his wealth had already hailed under his Weibo, and many netizens began to watch and pretend that the blogger was beaten in the face. When pretending to be forced to meet a great god, this picture is so beautiful that I dare not look at it. Ha ha ha, blogger, your face hurts or not? Hurry up and go to the toilet and cry with your 10 million worth of vase. My friend above, what are you telling the truth? Isn't there 10 million, but 1,000? Worship the great god, please help me look at this bronze mirror. My grandma said this is something hundreds of years ago, and she wants to keep it for me as an heirloom. Do you say it really is something hundreds of years ago? Little Joe the Great helped me look at this vase, is it real? Under Suinfo Weibo, half of the netizens laughed at the bloggers, and half of the netizens asked God to help them see the truth or not. It was not until the Suinfo blogger deleted the Weibo that the netizens' excitement subsided. This Weibo is very lively, but Xiqiao, the master of Xiang, started to get off the car to film the last scene. He walked out of the car door, squinted and looked up at the dazzling sun above his head, and walked towards the set with Emperor Fanner. At this time, outside the set, a black car slowly stopped. Boss, there is something wrong with the car. It takes 5 minutes for the car to pick you up. The driver carefully glanced at the man in the back seat of the car, and his voice was a little bit small unconsciously. Yet, the man in the back seat of the car responded with a low voice. He turned his head and looked out the window of the car. He didn't know what to see, and his gaze turned slightly. 5 minutes later, a silver car stopped next to the car. The bodyguard in a shirt and bow tie bent slightly to open the door for him, and then a large black parasol was propped above the door to prevent the sun from getting in. The man stepped out, and there was no dusty dark leather shoes on the ground. He walked to the silver car with no expression on his face. After a sudden pause, he looked at the young bodyguard who opened the door for him. Which crew is this? The crew of Closed Moon Princess is a TV series invested by World Star Entertainment. It was probably because the name of this film and television drama did not fit the man's aesthetics. He moved his eyebrows slightly, and then got into the car. He didn't look at the set again until the silver car drove away. No matter how powerful a hero is, there will be a day when he gets old, and no matter how ambitious the emperor is, he will miss the time when he was young. The elderly emperor sits on the golden dragon throne, his feet are full of civil and military knelt, and the sound of long live seems ethereal and distant. The snowflakes were blowing into the solemn hall along with the cold wind. His eyes looked blankly in a certain direction outside the gate, but it was a pity that he couldn't see anything except the vast expanse of whiteness. "What time is it now?" His voice had the dullness that is characteristic of old people, but even so, he didn't see the slightest old embarrassment. On the contrary, he had a trace of calmness and elegance. "My Majesty, it's already the next hour." The little next to him replied in a low voice. The emperor suddenly sighed after hearing this. "It's actually this hour." Sometimes machines are better at capturing small details than humans, so close-up shots tend to pay more attention to eye play. In the monitor, the eyes of the old emperor were so complicated, there was thought, loss, and regret, but in the end it was relieved. In the original novel, the male third is just a male vase that promotes the plot. Although the adapted script is slightly more focused than the original, it is only because of the influence of Gong Ziqiao's face on the ratings, but no one has thought about this. The rationality of the role's emotions, anyway, for this kind of TV series, the male lead and the male partner only need to be in love, secret love, and sadomasochistic heroines. Whether they are in line with their identity and nature is not important at all. But Gong Ziqiao didn't change her lines, but relied on her eyes to sublimate the whole character, just like you gave a handful of cabbage to the chef, but he gave you a wonderful chicken flavor. How could this not make people feel surprise? Director Zhang once had ambitions, and he had the dream of becoming a tall director and shooting a shocking work, but after a long time in the entertainment industry, he gradually only valued the ratings, only the attention, and whether he can get more investment from investors. As for whether the plot of the play is reasonable and whether the costumes are evidence-based, it is no longer so important, and dreams are even more contemptuous. There are so many messy TV series in the circle, as long as he doesn't shoot so badly. It doesn't matter if the audience scolds, it's good to have attention. No one scolds, no one to praise, it is pitiful. It doesn't matter if the film has no depth or connotation. It does not matter if you have something to shoot and you have money to take. There are more directors than he has no conscience. He is just following the crowd. After seeing the performance of the newcomer today, he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of shame about his mentality, as if he wasted such a good seedling and let a treasured knife wipe the neck of the chicken. Seeing that his face was wrong, the assistant director sitting next to him glanced at Gong Ziqiao, who was still filming with some doubts, and said in a low voice, "Director Zhang, is there something wrong? Isn't this eye scene very good?" Director Zhang shook his head, then got up and clapped his hands. "Very well, this scene is over, congratulations Xiao Qiao, your play is finished." He took out a red envelope in his pocket and handed it to Xi Qiao. He smiled and said, "Next time we have the opportunity, we will cooperate again." Gong Ziqiao smiled, and after removing her makeup and taking a photo with the crew, she boarded the plane back to the imperial capital. This time for the location shooting, he has been away from home for almost 2 weeks. His parents are worried that he will not eat well and sleep well every day. If they are not worried about affecting his shooting, they would like to make a phone call an hour. Going back earlier will save them worry. Because their filming location was in the suburbs, the crew was worried that he would not be able to call the car, so they arranged for someone to take him and Hepeng to the airport. The driver was a 40-year-old master. Before getting out of the car and entering the airport, Gong Ziqiao took a photo with him and also asked for an autographed photo, which he said was taken home to his daughter. Gong Xi Qiao knew that the other party was just selling him a favor and giving him a face, and it was just an excuse to say that he would bring his daughter home. Who would be a rare photo of an unknown newcomer? After checking in, he raised his wrist and looked at the time. there is still time to board the plane. Let's go to the waiting room and wait. He Peng naturally had no objection. The two of them dragged their suitcases to the VIP lounge. There are not many people in the VIP lounge area, and the atmosphere inside is very comfortable. Gong Xi Chiao is a little tired from rushing to work and filming location scenes these days. After ordering a glass of sweetened milk, he drank a few sips and slept on the sofa. Seeing this, He Peng took out a blanket from his suitcase to cover him, and sat silently while reading a book. After half an hour, several men passed by the sofa they were sitting on. He raised his head and glanced up. Although the man in the lead was young, but with extraordinary momentum, he knew that he was not an ordinary person, so he looked down and didn't look much. When is the time? Gong Ziqiao suddenly opened his eyes, although there was still fatigue on his face, but because of the strangers passing, he still woke up as quickly as possible. Almost half an hour. He Peng replied in a low voice. Oh, Gong Ziqiao rubbed his temples and stood up and said, the time is almost up, let's go. He got up and walked a few steps, and found that someone was blocking the way ahead, and said, excuse me, borrow it. The few men in front of him gave him a glance and silently stepped aside. After he walked over, he smiled politely at them and nodded, thank you. He Peng handed the suitcase to the staff and asked them to arrange the boarding trolley, and then, circled for a half circle, avoiding the path of the few men in front, and quickly caught up with Gong Ziqiao. Among the few people borrowed by Gong Ziqiao, the man in the lead glanced at him, and said to the person behind him, go and arrange boarding. After boarding the plane, Gong Xi Chiao leaned on the seat and closed his eyes to rest. He was very sleepy, but he couldn't sleep. He didn't ask for the plain meal delivered by the flight attendant, and now he is so sleepy that he has no appetite to eat. He Peng asked the flight attendant to pour a glass of juice. He held the juice and handed it to Gong Xi Chiao, young Master Chiao, drink a glass of juice. Thank you. Gong Xi Chiao took a sip of the juice, yawned, and pulled the blanket on his body. Don't go back when you wait. Go and make do with my house for the whole night. I'm too lazy at night. Toss. Then I'm welcome. He Peng didn't refuse, because he lived a bit far away, so it would be fine to stay at Gongzi's house for one night. Xi Qing put down the book in her hand, looked at the two people who were talking quietly next to her, and saw one of the young people shrunk in the blanket, looking very lazy. He moved his eyebrows slightly, retracted his gaze to continue reading, and the two young men next to him did not speak again. However, the bodyguard sitting next to Xi Qing noticed the look in Xi Qing's eyes, and then took another look. This is not the young man I met in the lounge just now. I didn't expect to be on the same plane as them. When the plane landed a little more than once, after Gong Ziqiao walked out of the security check channel, he saw his father standing there waiting for him in a flowered shirt and a gold necklace and gold watch. There was no one within a radius of 2 meters around him. Son, here. When Gong Zixing saw Gong Ziqiao, his serious face suddenly smiled into a flower, and a few stepped forward. I said that the cruise life is hard, you see how long it takes you to go out. I lost a lap. He Peng behind the father and son. Why didn't he see where Zhou Xiao had lost weight? What kind of look did the boss look like? Is there? Gong Ziqiao looked down at himself. I weighed in the crew a few days ago, and I weighed 2 kilograms. That must be a problem with the scale. Gong Zixing snatched the suitcase in his hand. Go home for dinner, I will let the nanny make you a table of delicious food, and make up for it. Xiao He, come, too. Gong Zixing turned to He Peng and said, it's been hard to take care of our Xiao Qiao during this time. No, young Master Qiao is very good, not hard at all. When He Peng saw Gong Zixing for the first time, he felt a little guilty, but after getting along for a while, he found that Gong Zixing was just a watch. A good person who will give way to a child is a bit fierce and a bit sharper in aesthetics. Because Gong Xi Chiao's play was finished, and he had nothing to do, so in the following days, he simply bought a few books about acting and took them back to read. Occasionally, I was invited by some associations to take my own paintings and calligraphy to some exhibitions, and as a result, I sold a few works. This kind of leisurely life has passed for more than 2 months, and then he received a call from the crew saying that the film will be premiered on satellite TV at the end of the month, and the network copyright has also been sold. Now the crew has to promote it, hoping that he can participate in the crew's publicity. Jobs. In fact, the publicity of the crew has nothing to do with him as a newcomer, but it can't hold back that the director and the producer want to praise him, so this kind of occasion to increase the exposure rate will not miss him. Of course, Gong Xi Chiao was not as innocent and harmless as he appeared, so he accepted the invitation of the crew at the moment and agreed to participate in the recording of the show 2 days later. Nowadays, half of the TV series ratings depend on quality and half on speculation. As for how to speculate, it depends on the ability of the crew to plan. Regardless of whether it is black or white, as long as it does not involve the issue of resistance to the whole people, then there is no need to worry about the topic, and there is no need to worry about no one paying attention. The attention has increased, the ratings have increased, and the network click-through rate has also increased. For example, Zhou Huaisheng and Chen Wen have been starring 2 weeks ago. They have been in love rumors since 2 weeks ago. The two occasionally have some ambiguous interactions on Weibo, but if they really want to say that they are lovers, they have not seen either side. Recognition. Another idea of the crew is to let Gongzi Chiao open Weibo, which is conducive to the promotion of the internet. Although Gongzi Chiao didn't have an economic company and didn't understand the secret operations in the circle, he also knew how muddy the water in this circle was after those tactics and calculations in his previous life. After thinking about it, he still registered an account according to the meaning of the crew. The Weibo name was Gongzi Chiao, and then he sent the first Weibo. Gongzi Chiao, at the request of the organization, open Weibo at official Weibo. He paid close attention to the familiar people in the crew, then closed the Weibo page, and then chose the most comfortable position to watch the comedy. After Chen Wen learned that Gongzi Chiao opened Weibo, she also followed him soon and reposted his Weibo. The content of the repost was, "Have the ability to open Weibo, do you have the ability to post photos?" As female fans remembered who Gongzi Chiao was, and left messages on Weibo, saying that you have to be reserved for the goddess. No matter how beautiful you are, you can't destroy your image. Let go of the beautiful boys and let them come. Gongzi Chiao's Weibo is very lively, but the messages are all passerby fans, and the number of followers following him is less than 30,000. Among them, a batch of zombie fans given by the Weibo platform Friendship have not been excluded. If it weren't for Chen Wen reposted his Weibo, I am afraid that there are not even 10,000 followers following him. Zhou Huaisheng only reposted Chen Wen's Weibo the next day, but the more subtle thing was that he only reposted it and didn't even write a single word. It feels to the fans that it is a matter of routine for the sake of face, but there is not much friendship with Gongzi Chiao in fact. However, since Gongzi Chiao only relied on the makeup photos taken a few months ago to post a Weibo hotspot, there was no follow-up, and there was not much topicality for a long time, so he did not notice that this was wrong. They didn't speak casually when they saw some signs, and they wouldn't gossip about them casually before they knew their wealth background. Knowing that Gong Xi Chiao was going to be on a TV show, his parents seemed even more excited than him. Gong Xi Xiong was rich enough to send several sets of famous brands to his home, not asking for the best, but the most expensive. He Peng, who helped Gong Ziqiao make clothing references, almost aroused the feeling of hatred for wealth after seeing all kinds of luxury watches and men's brooches in the cloakroom. Because of this, any watch in it can keep up with his salary for nearly a year. You said that such a rich young master at home would not be his second-generation ancestor, but he had to rely on his face and strength to feed his food. How could this balance the hearts of other people? Although Xiao Qiao's parents' aesthetics and hobbies are too grounded, most of the things in Gongzi Qiao's cloakroom are still aesthetically normal, and they are of high standard. It seems that the aesthetics of the two elders have not been passed on to Xiao Qiao, which is really gratifying. Congratulations! Because the show that I will participate in tomorrow is a variety show with very good ratings, it is very popular with young people, so in the end he chose a shirt, a vest, and a pair of dark pants that can set off his long legs. No matter what the occasion, even if this suit is not too eye-catching, it will not go wrong. Shirts and vests are magical garments. As long as some details and accessories are different, the effect of wearing them will be different. After someone put it on, it was a waiter; when someone put it on, it was a noble son with a British fan. Obviously Gong Xi Qiao belongs to the latter. He Peng has always been wondering what kind of magical method was used to allow young Xiao Qiao's parents to raise such a son whose style is completely different from theirs. When he first met young Master Qiao, he thought this was an elegant and noble boy. After getting to know him, he knew that he was too naive. What an elegant noble son, that's all a lie. This is actually a lazy glutton, and he is obviously a handicapped party who also likes to play online games. If he is killed, he will turn his head and secretly ask the leveling to help him go back. They kill him once, she will definitely kill the opponent 5 times before giving up. What made his 3 views even more fragmented was that Gongzi's parents expressed great appreciation for Qiao Xiao's behavior that must be reported. Gong Zixing even spent money to buy a big bull in the game and killed it. Xiao Qiao's players chased and intercepted and stopped playing. I always felt that the family's style of painting was seriously inconsistent with their identity, which greatly overturned his fixed impression of the local tyrants. Thank you, Xiao Qiao, for his correct outlook, otherwise anyone who spoils the child so much will have problems with it. Although occasionally he would slander Gong Xi Qiao's family in his heart, in general, in He Peng's eyes, their whole family are very good people. They don't show off or think about themselves. In the case of not involving Qiao Xiao, even more he doesn't bully others, and his family are all good people who are straight, but the style of painting is not so right. Gong Ziqiao chose the clothes to wear tomorrow, and after sending He Peng away, he went back to his bedroom and performed the daily sleep supplement exercise. In the previous life, he was worried about labor and couldn't sleep well. In this life, he can lie down well. Now, he will never get up. Even if you can't sleep, you can lie on the bed and play with your tablet and mobile phone for a while. Well, I have to say that people in this world are very clever. Such magical things can be invented. Fortunately, when he was just born, his eyes would be blurred and invisible. Otherwise, the light that is many times brighter than the night pearl can be turned on. He was shocked. It's just a pity that the people here are not very interested in the traditional 6 arts of gentlemen. Even his calligraphy and painting, which can only be regarded as second-rate in the previous life, can be quite praised in this life, if it is known by his colleagues in the previous life. Will be surprised. You know, the orthodox counselors in the previous life actually didn't look down on his stray colleagues in their hearts. Thinking of this, Gong Ziqiao showed a somewhat gleeful smile on his face, so in the end, those self-proclaimed genius colleagues were disgusted by the master's suspicion, but he was an extremely human minister, who could live a lifetime to death, and received a pair of eyes. His parents are as precious as pearls. Those colleagues, who can have his life? Hooking the corners of his mouth, Gong Xi Qiao concealed the sarcasm in his heart, rubbed his cheeks, closed his eyes and fell asleep slowly. On the day of the recording of the show, director Zhang and several leading actors were interviewed internally by the TV station in the lounge of the red light TV station, and they were all very kind. Although Zhou Huaisheng had a smile on his face, he was a little uncomfortable. It should be said that since he watched the trailer of the promo film cut by the crew a few days ago, he has not been in a good mood. Because he found that in the propaganda film, the appearance of the newcomer Gong Xi Qiao was too bright, which made him feel a sense of crisis. After a TV series was broadcast, it was not uncommon for him to become a female and male partner. If it hadn't been for the male number 1 booked in a car accident, he wouldn't be able to get this role. However, he never expected that the role he had worked so hard to get would make a male number 3 equal to him, which really made him panic. In terms of age, Gong Xi Chiao is nearly 7 years younger than him. In terms of appearance, Gong Xi Chiao is better than him. In terms of background, his family tries ordinary working class people, but he does not know what exactly does Gong Xi Chiao's family do. But at least the person who holds the public Xi Chiao behind is definitely not bad money. There are so many TV series that can be broadcast every year, so the TV series that can be broadcast on satellite TV are also limited. In order to grab the leading role of this kind of movie and TV series that can be broadcast on satellite TV, no one in the circle has gotten a head start. If you come to someone with strength, it will reduce their chances. Therefore, the more outstanding Gong Xi Chiao's, the more a threat to him. Gong Xi Chiao, who sits next to him, doesn't talk much and doesn't deliberately grab the camera, but just sitting there can't let people really ignore him. Even the camera lens has already been swept over him several times. Director Zhang, I heard that the crew went to several locations to shoot this movie. Did you encounter anything special during the filming? Because Closed Moon Princess is about to premiere on Hongguang TV, so the TV station happy to promote to the crew, and the crew is a win-win situation. It's normal to encounter difficulties in filming. If there is something special. Director Zhang smiled, does it count as Gong Ziqiao who knows Gukun, calligraphy and archery? The interviewer looked at Gong Xi Chiao very cooperatively. Gong Xi Chiao, you are so good at so many things. Did you learn it since you were a child? I just know some fur, not good at it. Gong Xi Chiao clasped his hands on his knees, just looking at something bluffing. You are too modest. The host's interview focused on the male and female lead, so after talking to Gongzi Qialuo, the topic shifted to Chen Wen and Zhou Huaisheng. As for whether Gongzi Chiao is really good at so many talents, for the program group, it is not that important. It's just a newcomer who played the male number 3. What kind of talent does the entertainment industry have, and it's hard to say whether they will be able to come forward in the future. Where is it worth their effort? Have you ever been on a hot topic on Weibo? Good-looking face? The face of the entertainment industry has become much better, and the internet celebrities have also caught a lot of them, but if they don't show up for a while, who still remembers who he is? It's not that they favor high and low, but the reality is like this, they just act according to the rules. Gong Ziqiao didn't mind that he received a cold reception, the other party ignored him, and he didn't move forward, sitting quietly and waiting for the recording of the show to start. Just now, the director Zhang praised the talent of Gong Xi Chiao. What do you think of this rookie junior, Huaisheng? The host smiled and brought the topic to Zhou Huaisheng. Zhou Huaisheng smiled when he heard the words, and said in a gentle tone, even though the younger brother is a newcomer, everyone likes him very much, and he is highly valued by director Zhang. Together, Wen Wen and I are not as complimented as he has received, so he acted Su Ruheng will definitely amaze everyone. Gong Ziqiao glanced at Zhou Huaisheng with a smile. This sounded like a compliment to him, but there was something wrong when he thought about it. What makes him incomparable with Chen Wen? What is he implying? The host has been in the entertainment industry for many years, and there is no way he can tell that there is something in his words. Zhou Huaisheng is simply not enough. She also noticed that the eyes of director Zhang and the actress Chen Wen were slightly wrong, and guessed that this was not arranged by the crew to speculate on the topic, but Zhou Huaisheng made his own opinion, so she turned the topic off and said to everyone after a few polite words. The recording is about to begin. You will soon realize what is called the 2 heavens of ice and fire in the recording of the show. She smirked, good luck to you. I also wish Closed Moon Princess has been watched by Changhong. Director Zhang chuckled, please show me mercy. I have old arms and legs, but I can't stand a game that is too exciting." After the host smiled and spoke to them politely, he brought them to the backstage of the studio, waiting for the recording to start, and arranged for a few people to enter the venue. After a few people arranged the order of entry, Zhou Huaisheng looked at Gong Xi Chiao who was standing next to him, glanced back and forth on his watch, his eyes became meaningful. Chen Wen noticed Zhou Huaishen's eyes and frowned slightly. Zhou Huaishen's words were a bit wrong from just now, as if he was deliberately targeting Gong Ziqiao. Thinking of this, her eyes swept over Gong Xi Chiao and Zhou Huaisheng, her brows furrowed even tighter. Gong Xi Chiao was a newcomer, and there was no brokerage company to back her up. If the team behind Zhou Huaisheng really wanted to cheat him, it would be a piece of cake. It couldn't be simpler. After the recording of the show started, the first entry was Director Zhang and the male and female starring actors. Gong Xi Chiao sat in the background listening to the screams of the fans at the recording site. He took a sip of water with a calm expression, and then continued to play with his mobile phone while looking down. Tension's about to be on stage for the first time in less than a minute. About 20 minutes later, a staff member reminded him that he would be on stage soon. He handed the phone to He Peng next to him, thanked the staff member, stood up at the entrance of the back passage, and waited to enter the venue. Now we welcome Su Ruheng, who values both extravagance and handsomeness. There was a round of applause that was not particularly enthusiastic, but when Gong Xi Chiao appeared on the stage, the applause stopped strangely, and then a scream sounded, and the applause rose like a tide. "So handsome," the hostess held a idiot face. "Handsome guy, do you lack a girlfriend? The kind who can eat, host, and can read?" Gong Ziqiao smiled at the hostess. "Sister Shui is so beautiful, I am afraid that if I say no, I will be sacked when I go out. Just treat me as having a girlfriend." Although it was just a ridicule, in Lu Shui's opinion, Gong Xi Chiao's appearance was indeed outstanding. That waist, that leg, that fart, cough cough, she was almost dazzled by the other's smile, and then she presented a strong man posture. "It's okay, Sister Shui, I'm strong, don't be afraid of others putting on sack, I will protect you. Come on, I have a piece of fresh meat, let him go, you old bull." The male host Luo Zhang pushed Lu Shui a bit, then walked to Gong Ziqiao and introduced to the audience, "Handsome guy, don't regarding the female lunatic, you can introduce yourself to the audience and the audience in front of the TV. Hello audience friends, my name is Gongzi Chiao, my surname is Gongzi and my name is Chiao. I play the role of Su Ruheng in the play. I hope everyone likes this role." The not-so-great self-introduction with a shy smile almost made the scene again. The female audience screamed, "And the shy and tender little meat looks very delicious, okay?" Rao, the director of the program group, did not expect that Gong Xi Chiao's appearance would have such a good effect, so he made a gesture to Luo Zhang on the stage to indicate that the next recording can increase Gong Xi Chiao's participation. Although Zhou Huaisheng smiled and watched the host teasing with Gong Ziqiao, his heart was mixed, like knocking over a jar of strong wine, and he wanted to spit out the anger in his heart. Most of the audience who came to the recording site were fans of him and Chen Wen. Now these fans are showing this idiot to Gong Xi Chiao, and Gong Xi Chiao is really a fan. The program was recorded in the middle and late stages. Originally, according to the recording process, the male and female protagonists were used to perform a short segment together. However, because the director changed his mind halfway, it became a plot of two males competing with one female, letting Gong Ziqiao, Chen Wen and Zhou Huaisheng work together. On stage, Zhou Huaisheng intended to press Gong Xi Chiao on his head, but he didn't know that Chen Wen didn't cooperate at all. He even helped Gong Xi Chiao turn the scene into a funny clip, which caused the audience to laugh and applaud. "Madam, hurry up and pour water for me, second lady, hurry up and hang my shoulders to the queen, or be careful that the king will take you off." Chen Wen sat on the chair domineeringly, and hooked Zhou Huaisheng and Gong Ziqiao. "Hand. Okay, Lord Queen, no problem, Lord Queen, Gong Xi Chiao suddenly played a charming male concubine, and the atmosphere of the scene also cheered up. Compared with Chen Wen and Gong Xi Chiao, Zhou Huaisheng looked much stiffer, and he couldn't put down the shelf at all. However, most of the audience were amused by Chen Wen and Gong Xi Chiao, and they didn't notice what was wrong with him. After the recording was over, after everyone left, Chen Wen's agent was a little relieved. I'm just a second and third line niche. I really think I'm a big name, but he is still arguing for endorsements with people in our company, and he's still a little tender. I brought 3 artists, and one of them was almost snatched by Zhou Huaisheng as the endorsement, so even though he looked kind on the face, he had a sigh of relief in his heart. Chen Wen squinted her eyes and leaned on the back of her chair. Recently, she rushed to the notice almost every day. She didn't sleep well at all. Hearing the complaints from the agent, she was a little impatient. If you win, no one can take it away. That's what it deserves. Hearing her tone was wrong, the agent stopped complaining and gave her a careful look. What's the matter with you? It's okay. Chen Wen opened her eyes and barely sat up straight, realizing that her tone was a bit too late. I've heard about Yukin. He can keep the endorsement this time, and you have used a lot of energy, but if you're like this again, it's okay to go clubbing, drinking, and beating people, you won't be able to protect him after 10. The agent smiled bitterly. He also knew that he was unlucky for an artist like Zhao Yukin, but he is the son of a major shareholder. What can he say? Don't worry about Yukin for now. You are now in a rising career. Zhou Huaisheng is narrow-minded. Our propaganda strategy must be changed. Otherwise, something will happen and you will be embarrassed. Chen Wen herself didn't like Zhou Huaisheng very much, and she didn't mean to object to the agent's suggestion. I think Gong Xi Chiao has the potential to become a big hit. It is more meaningful to befriend him now than to wait for him to become famous. You are talking about the newcomer who replaced Liang Dong as the male third. The agent's impression of Gong Ziqiao is still on the 2 points of being handsome and bringing money into the team. He didn't seem to be born in Caban. What's so special about him? What makes you optimistic about him? Good looks, good acting skills, and some background at home. As long as such people find a suitable opportunity, they will skyrocket. Chen Wen looked at the huge building of red light TV through the car window, and he is like that. The most important thing for people is opportunity. The agent was silent for a moment, and then said, you can do this yourself, just pay attention to your sense of measure. I understand, Chen Wen rubbed her forehead. In the big environment of the entertainment industry, female artists have always been more difficult to walk than male artists. Even the audience has more demands on female artists. She managed to get to where she is today. How can I take a wrong step and plunge myself into the abyss? Under the TV station building, Zhou Huaisheng watched Gong Ziqiao get into a luxury car. There seemed to be a middle-aged man with a face full of flesh sitting in the car. He suddenly sneered and turned his head to say a few words to his assistant. On Friday night, the variety show that Gong Ziqiao participated in was officially aired. The ratings that had been no different from the past suddenly increased, making the staff of the program group a big jump. Go to Weibo and major forums to see what's going on. The director of the program group turned to the very famous Dijiao forum in China while giving instructions to other staff. As soon as he opened the gossip homepage of Dijiao forum, he saw several posts discussing their programs. Have you watched the show on Red Light Channel tonight? The long legs in the white shirt are so handsome. There are pictures and the truth. The people who used to say that the Xioxian row stills are too p to stand up, are your faces swollen? Director, Weibo is going crazy. A staff member handed his mobile phone to the director. This Weibo was posted a few minutes after the show was broadcast, and the number of reposts has now exceeded 5,000. The director took the phone and found that it was an ordinary netizen who posted the Weibo, and the pictures released were only photos taken with the phone facing the TV, but even so, many netizens also liked and reposted it. Don't drop your hat. Why is there such a handsome 360-degree guy in the world who is so handsome that he can't live anymore? Who will save me? Director, the ratings of the show are broken through 5. A staff member rushed into the office with excitement. We suppressed the show of Variety Brothers. The staff present were a little confused. At the beginning, their show used to dominate the show, but with the sudden emergence of another TV station's variety show, no matter what variety show on their station is, they are no better than that one. Now they suddenly learned their ratings. It burst. How can it not be surprising? After the room was full of silence, a staff member blinked his mouth and said, "Everyone loves to see the world of faces." The director slapped the table with a bang and stood up. "Call someone to contact Gong Xi Chiao immediately, and we will give him an exclusive interview." The staff, look at me, and I look at you. For a long time, one of them hesitated and said, "But, we don't have his contact information." "Then contact his agency. It is said that he didn't seem to sign a contract with anyone." "Then you go and contact Director Zhang, go now." The director's eyes glowed, as if he saw her reaching the pinnacle of her life, becoming Bai Fumei, and marrying her rich and handsome future. At the Gongzi's house at this time, Ms. Chiao stared at the TV without blinking, and she didn't forget, "Who is this Zhou surnamed? How do I think he doesn't look right at our son?" Gong Zixing nodded and nodded. "My wife, you are right. I also think there is something wrong with this person. Is there any contradiction with Xiao Qiao on the crew?" Listening to the conversation between the two parents, Gong Ziqiao calmly lied on the sofa and drank yogurt, resolutely not mixing a word. "My son is 18 streets handsomer than him. Look at the live audience below. They are all watching our son. Mom Chiao is now the most senior psychologist, and she can see from one look and one action. See through what others think about their son. The director Zhang is not bad, the female lead is pretty, son, don't you think so?" Gong Xi Chiao nodded indiscriminately and decided not to speak, because he knew that if he opened his mouth, the chat box would not be closed. At this moment, his cell phone rang, and the name of the caller ID was Zhang Dao. Mom Chiao turned down the TV sound and made a hush gesture to Gong Zixing. "Director Zhang, haven't you slept so late?" Gong Xi Chiao's tone was filled with a smile, enough to make Director Zhang on the phone feel his closeness. Facts proved that Director Zhang liked this set very much. When he heard the voice of Gong Xi Chiao, he unconsciously had more favorable impressions for Gong Xi Chiao, and then told Gong Xi Chiao that the Red Light TV station had invited him to do a special topic. It even helped him analyze the pros and cons. "Okay, Director, I'll consider it carefully, and trouble you." Gong Ziqiao hung up the phone and looked at the TV screen. Inside, Zhou Huaisheng was showing a set of swordsmanship, which aroused applause from the audience. It's a pity that this set of swordsmanship in Gong Ziqiao's eyes is a fist embroidered with legs, and it can't even compare to the young general who shows the main door to the master. Compared to the first time, Gong Xi Chiao's treatment when he appeared on Hongguang TV station is the difference between ordinary customers and VIP customers. The dressing room for single use, the best makeup team, if not Gong Xi Chiao's dress is very suitable. They even prepare his costume together. The cold reception suffered a few days ago was so different from the current enthusiasm that he Peng, as an assistant, was a little uncomfortable. On the contrary, Gong Ziqiao felt that this was human nature. When he came to the TV station last time, although the staff here were not enthusiastic to him, they were polite enough to be able to do this. It was considered good, compared to what he had seen in his previous life. Those snobberies, such as the staff of Hongguang TV station, are nothing at all. People like to respect the strong and human. Therefore, only by putting oneself in the right position can we look at the problem more objectively. Lu Shui was originally worried that Gong Ziqiao would have a negative impression of the TV station because he was not warmly received last time. As a result, he would not be too cooperative during the interview. How did you know that the other party did not seem to take the previous things to heart, so he had a negative impression on the TV station? There is no opinion on the content. Seeing his expression as usual, Lu Shui couldn't help asking again, do you have any thoughts on the contents of the Taiwanese version? Very good, there were no excessive questions in the table, so Gong Ziqiao closed the table with a smile and gently put it aside. It's just that the answers to these questions are my free play. Lu Shui nodded, and the smile on her face became 2 points real. She stood up and said, then we go to the studio now. She sees too many young people who are a little fame and proud, and they have long been used to the possibility of appearing. She felt a little unaccustomed to the various situations of the sudden emergence of such a situation without any condition and still very advanced. Daily Face to Face is a talk show on Hongguang TV. The guests of this show include entertainers, experts from all walks of life, and some parties involved in major events. Although the ratings are not among the top 3, it can be regarded as a certain degree of popularity. A relatively stable audience group. Originally it was another hostess who hosted this program, but because the hostess was about to give birth in the first 2 weeks, Lu Shui hosted it on her behalf. After these episodes, it's a pity that the audience's acceptance of her was not as Lu Shui imagined. So high. The comments behind the audience are clear to her, but she can't express it on the face. Let the station leaders know that even her status in the variety show industry will be affected. At the beginning of the program recording, she introduced the identity of the guest as usual, and then gradually brought the topic to the audience's interest. Some netizens commented that you are a handsome guy with no dead ends at 360 degrees, what do you think of this? Hey! A slightly embarrassing and shy smile appeared on Gong Ziqiao's face. Like many newcomers, there are many unaccustomed to the camera. I think the only thing that can do this is Huaqiabi. For example, the charm of Huaqiabi, I am still too far away. Lu Shui laughed lightly when he heard the words, with some ridicule in her tone, I thought you would say thank you, but I'm not that handsome. There are 1,000 Hamlet in the eyes of 1,000 people. I will thank you for saying that I am handsome. If I am not handsome, I can't help it. My appearance is given by my parents and cannot be changed. Gong Ziqiao touched embarrassedly. He touched his nose, but by contrast, I still like everyone to praise me as a handsome guy. After speaking, he folded his hands toward the camera. It seems that Xiao Qiao prefers pure natural looks. Lu Shui mentioned a sensitive topic in the entertainment industry, then if your girlfriend gets plastic surgery in the future, can you accept it? It's not about being pure and natural, it just feels painful to have plastic surgery, and having the courage to have plastic surgery is also great. Gong Ziqiao stretched out his hand and touched his face. It's not important either. It seems that Xiao Qiao is an open-minded boy. There must have been a lot of girls who liked you in school before, Lu Shui said. I heard that you came to participate in the filming of Closed Moon Princess just after graduation. What is the reason? Are you engaged in an acting career that is completely different from your major? Try it if you like it, Gong Ziqiao smiled. My dad told me that young people should try what they like. Don't wait until they are old and regret it. As long as I don't do things that harm society, he and my mother is willing to support. It seems that you are very happy to have parents who are so enlightened and love you. Lu Shui's eyes became warm, not knowing whether this emotion was for the father Xi Qiao or his parents. For me, they are the best parents in the world. The smile on Gong Ziqiao's face became a lot more sincere. With them, I am very happy in my life. This daily face-to-face program was being recorded, and Zhou Huaisheng posted the photos from his mobile phone. When will it be released? He considered it for a moment, and said to the human on the other end of the phone, at around 8 o'clock tonight, there are many netizens online during that time period. The more people, the more lively it becomes. After hanging up the phone, he sneered. Chen Wen wanted to take a newcomer to sing a drama with him. It's not that easy. It's a little backstage. In this circle, who doesn't have a little backstage? A newcomer who has not yet emerged, stepping on him is simply a simple matter, let him learn the principles of life. Huaisheng, do you really want to send that photo? Zhou Huaishen's agent glanced at the photo on the phone. Because of the distance, the photo was a bit blurry, but it was enough to identify the person who was going to get on the bus as Xi Qiao, sitting in the car. The middle-aged man here shows half of his face, even if it bursts out, no one will recognize who he is, and he won't offend the big man. Send. Why don't you send it? Zhou Huaisheng lit a cigarette and put it in his mouth, taking a sip with a look of intoxication. Let my senior teach him what humility is. Seeing his persistence, the agent moved the corners of his mouth, but thought that Gong Xi Qiao was just a humble newcomer, so he swallowed the words that came to his lips. At the end of the recording of Daily Face to Face, Chen Wen said, I heard from director Zhang that you played the Gukun very well, and you don't need to be a stand-in when filming. If you don't mind, can you give us a performance? Actually, I'm not good at it. I just managed to make a song. Director Zhang praised me. Gong Ziqiao turned around and saw that the staff had already set up the piano stand, and even the Gukun had been set up, so he smiled and stood up. Then I will show my ugliness. Gong Ziqiao only needs to take a look at the arrangement of the piano stand, and know that the program crew is very careful when preparing the props. The quality of this Gukun is much better than that of the crew of Closed Moon Princess. Playing Gukun is not only about technique, but also about artistic conception. Gong Ziqiao knew very well that his slight level was nothing more than self-entertainment. Compared with a colleague who was good at piano art in his previous life, it was a huge difference. Lu Shui didn't understand Gukun, let alone play it. She didn't know what Gong Ziqiao's tune was called, or whether the difficulty was considered high, but she knew it was very good, as if someone was fishing on the river's edge. And she is the one who sits on the edge of the river and enjoys the scenery. Leisurely and calmly. After the song was finished, Lu Shui stood up and applauded together with the audience. She said with emotion, I believe the words of the fans now, Xiao Qiao, you are indeed a handsome guy with no dead ends at 360 degrees. If someday someone tell me that you are proficient in all kinds of piano, chess, calligraphy, and painting, I will never be surprised. Gong Ziqiao's index finger touched the strings lightly, and smiled without speaking. After the recording of the show, Gong Ziqiao took a group photo with several staff members of the TV station before saying goodbye. When he went downstairs, he saw his dad waiting outside the TV station again. Dad, Gong Ziqiao hurried forward, opened the car door and sat in. You didn't mean to talk about a business today, how come you have time to come over? I just finished talking with them, so I will come over to see you on the way. Gong Ziqiang asked the driver to start the car, and then said, your mother just called and asked when the show you recorded today will be broadcast, so she can guard the TV. Before I left, I listened to what the director of the program said. If the editing and post-production can catch up, it will be broadcast at 8:30 tonight, Gong Ziqiao said with a smile. Today I also talked to the host about you and the old man. Mom. Gong Ziqiang tried to make a nonchalant look and said, what do I have to talk about with your mother? It's just that his shining eyes and reddish ears betrayed him. Why didn't you talk? You and my mom are the most important people to me. If you don't talk about whom you talk to, Gong Ziqiao said with a smile, if those people know that my dad is so rich and capable, he will definitely be envious and hateful. Ah, what nonsense, Gong Ziqiang gave a dry cough and twisted his head unnaturally. Go home and rest well. We will watch TV together in the evening. The driver glanced in the rear-view mirror and wiped his sweat in his heart. Boss, if your face is not so red and your eyes are not so expectant, it may be more convincing. Before 7 o'clock in the evening, Ms. Chiao had already refused the invitation of the third good sister to go to the square dance together, sitting on the sofa solemnly, waiting for the daily face-to-face program to start. Mom, it's too early. Gong Xi Chiao brought a plate of raisins into Chiao's hands, and sat down beside her. When I came back with my dad today, I saw that the raisins were very fresh and delicious. Yes, you can taste it. How was the recording of today's show? I heard that the media is best at taking justice out of context. I am worried that you will be discredited by them. Ms. Zhou took over. The thought that you might be vilified by those people makes me feel uncomfortable. If you want to do so much, you didn't tell me. As long as you don't spend the national currency, then everyone can't like it. Gong Xi Chiao stretched out his hand and took Chiao's mother's shoulder. It's okay, don't worry. I know you have always had your own opinions. Mom Chiao smiled. After eating a grape, she praised the delicious food again and again. She was soon coaxed into a smile by Gong Xi Chiao, and she forgot to mention the previous thing. Gong Zixing sat aside, watching the mother and son eat most of the raisins one by one, and secretly relieved, this kid still has a way of his mother. At this time, the Haijiao forum and Weibo began to circulate a somewhat vague photo, and the owner of the photo was Gong Ziqiao. A certain Xiao Sheng who has become famous before the TV series on August 18 has pictures and the truth. A certain niche who brought money into the group, how big a face you have and behaved so high profile, is your godfather satisfied? Entertainment brother jumping, haha, the unknown side of a certain niche inside the Hongguang TV station. The staff of the daily face-to-face program group had mixed reactions after seeing the crazy photos on Weibo. The scandal of Gong Xi Chiao has been exposed. If he continues to broadcast his program tonight, I am worried that it will affect the reputation of our program group. If you have a topic, you can see it. Now that there are so many discussions about him on the internet, there will definitely be people who will pay attention to our program. I think the program that is waiting will be broadcast as it is, which is also good for our ratings. The director of the daily face-to-face program group is also very embarrassed. While she wants to ensure the reputation of the program group, she also wants to increase the ratings. After the affair of Gong Xi Chiao broke out, her brows have not been stretched. Director, Lu Shui rushed to the program group after learning the news. She glanced at the staff and said with a complex expression, I have seen the news on the internet, but I think the program should be broadcast as usual. The director looked at Lu Shui suspiciously, not understanding why her attitude was so firm. I have seen the car in the photo. Lu Shui had an impression of that car because she went to a reception a few weeks ago. The license plate number is so strange and the owner's last name is relatively rare, so she can remember it clearly. The owner is a big coal mine boss with the surname Gongzi. As soon as Lu Shui said this, everyone in the program group opened their mouths, all surnamed Gongzi? So this is not a godfather, but a real father? Originally I wasn't sure they were father and son, but at that reception, I heard one of the bosses mention that the son of the boss of Gongzi was very good and good-looking. The house was full of various trophies and awards. Lu Shui walked to the computer and clicked on a video of her conversation with Gong Xi Chiao. Although Gong Xi Chiao on the screen smiled a little bit shyly, he was very particular about sitting and talking. I think this is a very educated person. He knows the Gukhan, wears a famous brand all over his body, speaks elegantly, and has won many awards. It is not something that ordinary families can afford to cultivate such a person. Lu Shui paused. This time someone is targeting Gong Ziqiao behind the scenes. The boss of Gongzi will certainly not allow others to wrong his son, so our program will be broadcast as usual, and the benefits will be greater. They are the relationship between father and son, can you be sure? The director pondered for a moment. Although Lu Shui had not answered her question, he had already made a decision in his heart. Lu Shui nodded. I can guarantee that Gong Xi Chiao is definitely not someone who was unspoken for the purpose of making a film. As for whether these two people are father and son, she can't guarantee, but the characters can't be godfather and godson. Relationship. Well, tonight's show will be broadcast as usual. The director's tension between his eyebrows relaxed. just so, maybe this newcomer will really become popular in the future, thinking that we are good today, and we can also be let us hug our thighs in the future. The atmosphere relaxed, and everyone was in the mood for joking. As for the director's joke, no one took it to heart. If they can hold their thighs so popular, how big a leg does it take to do it? At 8:30, the media face-to-face broadcast on Hongguang TV station on time. Viewers who usually don't pay attention to the internet will only think that this young man is good-looking, quite talkative, and graduated from a prestigious school, so he has a preliminary favor. Impression. For many TV viewers, the rumors in the online world are two worlds with them. As long as the person looks good, the TV series is good. Who cares who he is in love with today and who he will break up with tomorrow? After Gong Ziqiao played a piece of Guqin, it has been praised by the mother-level and grandmother-level audiences in front of the TV, and even decided to see the Closed Moon Princess in which he played. Before the show of Gong Ziqiao's family was finished, Gong Zixiang received a phone call from the secretary. After hearing what happened, he almost smashed his phone. When did he become a godfather? He glanced at his wife and son who were still watching TV seriously, barely suppressed the anger in his heart, and said, "I have something to deal with right away, and I'll be back later." "Okay, you go, be careful on the road." Mom Jiao waved her hand without looking back, still staring at the TV with scorching eyes. "Boss, all the latest reports are here. Would you like to rest first?" The secretary looked at the antique-style clock on the wall and asked in a worried tone. "I see, put it on the table." Xi Qing nodded, and reached out to pick up a thick pile of materials. Without raising his head, "Go back and rest first." The secretary left helplessly, walked out the door and nodded to a bodyguard who was guarding outside, looked back at the empty large living room, and sighed. The quiet space made Xi Qing very satisfied. He especially hated the noisy environment, so in private, he didn't like to let people be close to him. He glanced at the report materials, and suddenly didn't have the interest to read it. He stood up and prepared to pour himself a glass of wine, and found that the TV series remote control had fallen in the sofa and took it out. He accidentally pressed the switch button, and he didn't bother, and went straight to pour himself a small glass of red wine. When he came back, he heard a very nice male voice on the TV, so he heard enough to give him a hint of the person's appearance. Curious. When he walked to the sofa and sat down, he glanced at the TV. The young man on the screen was wearing a fitted casual light suit. He seemed to be in his early 20s, smiling a bit familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. Before he remembered where he had seen this person, he saw the young man on the TV screen getting up and walking to a Guqin. He looked away uninterestedly and turned to get the remote control to turn off the TV. But when the Guqin tune sounded, his hand holding the remote control paused slightly, and his fingers rubbed the switch key a few times. Finally, he simply put down the remote control and closed his eyes against the back of the sofa and listened. 3 or 4 minutes later, the sound of the piano stopped abruptly, and the hostess's voice sounded, "It's so wonderful." The TV screen turned black in an instant, and Xi Qing threw the remote control aside, glanced at the report on the table, and went upstairs blankly. In the Cape Forum, there have been hundreds of stories of replies to Gong Ziqiao's posts based on unspoken rules. These people have spared no effort to discredit Gong Ziqiao. Among them are a certain dragon set of the crew next door and the staff of the crew next door. There is a story from the Closed Moon Princess crew who came out and said that Gong Ziqiao's extravagance by relying on his godfather behind him, how to let the screenwriter change the script to increase his role. It is also said that how Gong Ziqiao has no acting skills, and how much difference is compared with the protagonists, it is simply to ruin such a wonderful role in the original book. Soon this post flooded with a large number of fans of the original novel and Zhou Huaishan's fans. After they came in, they made a fancy mockery of Gong Xiqiao. The appearance of gritted teeth wishing to tear down Gong Xiqiao made it seem to those who don't know the truth. This is simply the anger that can only be achieved by killing the father and taking away his wife. Netizen A, one face can play Su Ruheng. It's a joke. Inflatable dolls look better than him. Can they also play this role? Netizen B, no wonder my male was so indifferent to the TV promotion last time, so he was such a character. Netizen C, don't be afraid of your life, we will be with you. Gradually, only Zhou Huaishan's fans were still criticizing Gong Xi Chiao in this post. They didn't even notice that the fans of the original novel had disappeared without a trace at this time. On the Weibo page, the official Weibo of Closed Moon Princess finally announced the first trailer. Closed Moon Princess official Weibo, 3 days later, we will be there or separated. The video opened. A man in a white robe stood on the high steps. He looked at the man and woman under the steps with indifferent eyes, and said for a long while, I am me, no one needs mercy and no one understands. We are not from the same world. Accompanied by the quiet flute sound, the picture changes, and the next is the picture of the male and female protagonist making love and getting married, but maybe the first man is too eye-catching, so that people who watch the video are not too fond of the later clips of showing affection. Heart. At the moment when the video was closed, the fan of the original novel suddenly felt, it turns out that this is Su Ruheng. Netizens who have not read the original novel will only think that the character at the beginning of the video is really powerful and looks so handsome. At this time, Gong Zixing, with the help of his assistant, applied for an account on Weibo, and then sent out his first Weibo in his life aggressively. Xiao Qiao's father, who turned me into Xiao Qiao's godfather, I am his own father. Daddy. These 4 big exclamation marks vividly expressed Gong Zixing's angry emotions and his dissatisfaction with the rumors spread by netizens. Who in the world is willing to become a godfather somehow?